Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Sunday. Thank you for being here. Stay where you are. Two great guests this evening, Alan Dershowitz and Joe Concha. You would think the potential for nuclear war would get more attention than it is, but it's not. But I will continue to bring it to your attention. I know it's an unpleasant thing on a Sunday night. You kind of want to relax. You know, we need to bring dancing bears on and so forth and so on, but we're not going to do that. This is very, very important. I have an article here, CBS News. U.S. and Iran nuclear talks are making very good progress, quote unquote, U.S. official says. I honestly don't have any idea what that means. Our country, has a disastrous record of preventing nuclear proliferation with third world countries. Disastrous. Countries that we have appeased through endless diplomacy, interim agreements, failed inspections, billions and billions of dollars in subsidies, and on and on and on. Yet, they move forward. They play us over a period of decades. This is how both Pakistan and North Korea got nuclear weapons under Republican and Democrat presidents and administrations. A complete failure over several decades. A complete failure. I went back and I looked. Stick with me, please. It's very important. We'll get to Iran, because this has everything in the world to do with Iran. The New York Times, June 1, 1998. U.S. and China helped Pakistan build its bomb. Pakistan is a third world country. It has radicals and terrorists. It plays footsies with the Taliban in Afghanistan, even though it's an ally of ours. It required more than 3 decades, a global network of theft and espionage, and uncounted millions for Pakistan, one of the world's poorest countries, to explode that nuclear bomb. But it could not have happened without smuggled Chinese technology and contradictory shifts in U.S. policy, according to present and former U.S. officials. It goes on. But the United States, a Cold War friend that turned its back on Islamabad when that long battle was over, pursued policies that proved almost as essential to the Pakistani bomb program as the uranium and tritium. Some present and former government officials say. It started as a domestic energy program, wouldn't you know? I think we're hearing that today about Iran. So they said. It's never a domestic energy program. What about North Korea? North Korea is now producing nuclear weapons like a chicken produces eggs. This is Newsweek from August 2017. Did the U.S. really pay North Korea extortion money for 25 years? Fact-checking Trump's tweet. President Donald Trump dedicated his first tweet of the day, this is 2017, to the ongoing tensions on the Korean Peninsula, claiming that talking is not the answer in dealing with the North Korean regime. He said the U.S. has been talking to North Korea and paying them extortion money for 25 years. Talking is not the answer. And what did we do with North Korea? What was the president talking about 8 years ago? Diplomatic efforts began in 1993. U.S. provided them with direct aid because their people were starving. 1995 to 2008 with some interruptions. What else did we do? We had negotiations that were called successful. These are Democrat and Republican presidents and administrations. What else happened? Well, what else happened? The Soviet Union, or Russia, supported North Korea's effort to get a nuclear weapon. What else happened? So did Communist China. They had indigenous development activities. In 1991, the U.S. announced its withdrawal of nuclear weapons from South Korea. Later in the same year, both North Korea and South Korea signed a declaration on the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Oh, they'll sign anything, these communists. Oh, they'll sign anything, these fascists. And if you think they're bad, the Islamists will sign and sign and sign and laugh and laugh and laugh. But in 1993, North Korea denied the IAEA UN access to suspected waste sites. Gee, sounds just like Iran, because Iran is using North Korea's playbook, and then threatened to leave the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. However, the country was convinced to suspend the withdrawal by the United States. Tense relations between the U.S. and North Korea, back and forth, like a dysfunctional marriage. But the North Koreans were never going to stop. They even got help from Pakistan, and they were evading sanctions left and right. We have a 0-2 record with North Korea and Pakistan. The Israelis have a perfect record of preventing dangerous third world countries from getting nuclear weapons. A 2-0 record. That's 100%. That's good as it gets. And it was not achieved by endless diplomacy, interim agreements, promises of denuclearization, and claims that nuclear power is limited to domestic consumption and all the rest of it. We've heard all this before. Israel took calculated, strategic military action to destroy the nuclear sites in Iraq in 1981, in Syria in 2007, without American help and without America's knowledge, for which it was condemned by the United States and Europe and the United Nations. But to this day, neither of those regimes, the Iraqi regime and the Syrian regime, have nuclear weapons. Somehow, by the way, they managed to have enough energy for their countries. Neither of them have nuclear weapons. Not because of diplomacy, not because of endless agreements, not because of threats, because they took them out, because they're a grave threat to the state of Israel. But Iran is a grave threat to all of our states and territories in the United States of America. But what did Israel do? New York Times, Israeli jets destroyed Iraqi atomic reactor. Attack condemned by United States and Arab nations. This is 1981. Israeli planes yesterday bombed and destroyed an atomic reactor near Baghdad that would have enabled Iraq to manufacture nuclear weapons, the Israeli government announced today. Prime Minister Menachem Begin justified the action as having been essential to prevent the evil President Saddam Hussein of Iraq from attacking Israeli cities with atomic bombs of the type dropped at Hiroshima during World War II. The raid was immediately condemned by the United States, by President Reagan, who later wrote in his diaries that they were right and he was wrong, which Mr. Begin said had not been notified in advance. A State Department spokesman in Washington denounced it as a very serious development and a source of utmost concern. Washington has been trying to improve relations with Baghdad. What about Syria? Declassified. Tel Aviv, Israel's preemptive attack a decade ago, this was written in 2018, on a plutonium reactor in the Syrian desert not only derailed Damascus' drive for nuclear weapons, but spared the world the specter of mass destruction capabilities falling into the hands of the Islamic State group. It goes on, to this day, despite the International Atomic Energy Agency's evidence to the contrary, that's the UN, the government of Syrian President Bashar Assad, remember this is 10 years ago, continues to deny that the site built with the assistance of North Korea was a nuclear facility. You notice the inbreds here? North Korea, China, Russia, working with Iraq, working with Syria, working with Pakistan, working with North Korea, and now working with Iran. I want you to take a look at this. Let's take a look at this scroll here, ladies and gentlemen, that we put together. CNN did this, one of the few things it did right. And it starts in 1957. All the efforts to try and appease and accommodate and to pay off and to beg the Iranians, please, please, please stop. Stop your nuclear program. And their response is, what nuclear program? We just want to heat our homes just like you Americans. You know, it gets very cold here in the desert. What's the problem? Why are you lying about this? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of more modern information. March 8 through 9, 2016. Iran test fires 2 Qatar ballistic missiles during a large-scale military drill, according to Iran's state-run press. U.S. officials say the tests do not violate the Obama deal, but are very likely in breach of a UN resolution calling on Iran not to undertake ballistic missile activity. What do they need ballistic missiles for? Mark, what does America need them for? Excuse me, we're good. They're evil. They're terrorists. We're civilized. Get it? There's a difference. January 29, 2017, Iran launches a medium-range ballistic missile. Its first missile test since Donald Trump became U.S. president, but the test fails, according to information given to CNN by a U.S. defense official. February 3, 2017, in reaction to the January 29 missile test, the U.S. Treasury Department says it's applying sanctions on 25 individuals and companies connected to Iran's ballistic missile program and those providing support to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard and so forth. By the way, whatever Trump put in place on Iran, Biden removed. October 13, 2017, Trump decertifies Iran's compliance with a nuclear agreement. So President Trump is well aware, through his first term in his own experience, that Iran cannot be trusted, that Iran lies. And that's why he put the sanctions in place, to try and stop them. March 22, 2019, the U.S. State and Treasury Department sanctioned 14 individuals and 17 entities that are involved in Iran's nuclear program, Iran's Organization for Defense, Innovation, and Research. In announcing the sanctions, senior administration officials suggest repeatedly that the existence of this entity in Iran and its subordinate organizations could provide cover for them to continue missile-related activities. So President Trump knows. In fact, the whole world knows. Secretary of State Marco Rubio knows. Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance knows. The leaders in Congress know. The UN knows. The leaders of Europe know. They all know exactly what Iran does. May 2019, a U.S. official with knowledge of the situation tells CNN that there are multiple images of commercial Iranian ships carrying missiles and other munitions. Wow, I guess for home heating. June 17, 2019, Iran has increased its low-enriched uranium production and in 10 days will pass the 300-kilogram limit it is allowed to stockpile under the nuclear deal. Oh, there's a nuclear deal? Did they sign another deal? Oh, they sure did. They're signing deals left and right. September 26, 2019, Rouhani, the president of Iran, confirms a report by Reuters that Iran is using advanced models of centrifuges to enrich uranium. You don't need advanced models of centrifuges for home heating nuclear power. And they don't even have any infrastructure in place for nuclear energy to reach their homes. This is all completely bogus. And everybody knows it. Every administration knows it, including this one. March 3rd, 2020, in a report to member states and obtained by CNN, the IAEA UN says that Tehran's stockpiles of low-enriched uranium now far exceed 300 kilograms, the limit set by the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The report notes that Iran has nearly tripled its stockpile of low-enriched uranium since November 2019, indicating a significant jump in production. January 2021. Iran announces it has resumed enriching uranium to 20% purity, far beyond the limits laid out in the 2015 nuclear deal, in a move likely to further escalate tensions with the United States. February 18, 2021, the Biden administration announces that the U.S. is willing to sit down for talks with Tehran. Oh, another sit-down. And other signatories to the Iran nuclear deal and achieve a mutual return to compliance of the original Obama deal. Less than 2 weeks later, Iran rejects an offer by the European Union for direct talks, as they rejected an offer by President Trump for direct talks a few weeks ago. June 8, 2022, IAEA, UN. Their Board of Governors censures Iran for failing to fully cooperate with the UN. Iran dismisses the IAEA motion as a political action and responds by removing 2 cameras fitted to monitor activities inside a nuclear facility. August 8, 2022, according to an EU official, the final text of a revived deal, oh, deals, baby, a revived deal to limit Tehran's nuclear program is ready for approval by the United States and Iran. In September, the U.S. State Department calls Iran's response to the proposed deal not constructive. Oh. November 22, 2022, IAEA Director Rafael Grossi says that Iran has begun producing uranium enriched up to 60% in its underground Fordow nuclear facility, bringing the country closer to weapons-grade material. I've talked to several experts. Once you can hit 60%, you can bring it down, you can bring it up. So they can temporarily bring it down. See, we brought it under 60%. We're in compliance. In 1 to 2 weeks' time, it's back up to 60% or higher. February 28, 2023, a top U.S. Defense Department official says that Iran could now produce 1 bomb's worth of fissile material in about 12 days. A UN report seen by CNN confirms that uranium particles enriched to 83.7% purity, which is close to the 90% enrichment levels needed to make a nuclear bomb, have been found in Iran's Fordow facility. UN's not exactly filled with warmongers, is it? Or neocons? Or pro-Israeli types, is it? No, I don't think so. February 7, 2024, according to a confidential report from the IAEA viewed by CNN, Iran has reduced its stockpile of near-weapons-grade uranium in the months before October 23. This is how they manipulate us. So sure, we'll bring it down. No big deal. Why don't you dismantle all this nuclear weapons-type development? No, we can't do that. So it's not for home heating. Oh, yes, it is. So we're all supposed to pretend, you see, and go along with this. We've heard all this before. We heard it with North Korea, some of it with Pakistan, but we heard it all with North Korea. Democrats and Republicans, State Departments of all kinds. We've all heard it. We've all read it. That's the long game. Took North Korea. Really, they started in the 50s, but really earnestly, 20, 25 years, Republican and Democrat administrations. It will take Iran less than that, about 15 years. We've heard it all before. Nuclear development is for domestic energy. That's a flat-out lie. I want to remind you that in the Middle East, the regimes are military dictatorships, Islamist monarchies, and terrorist states, other than Israel. That's it. There's not a democracy among them. And Iran falls into the category of a terrorist state. A terrorist state, death to America, that is funding more terrorism than any country on the face of the earth. More terrorism than any country on the face of the earth while it threatens us, a nation that suffered under 9/11. I hope our memories aren't short. Once Iran has a weapon, they'll all try to get weapons. All the military dictatorships, all the Islamist monarchies, all the Islamist terrorists, they're all going to want one, and they'll have easier access to one, thanks to Iran. What else? The Arab nations will align with Iran against us because Iran has a nuke. And Iran is aligned with our enemies. I don't care if we're talking to them or not. Communist China, North Korea, yes, Russia. They will align and are aligned with Iran. The entire balance of power in that region, the Middle East, will turn against the United States. Why, it's so far away. What do you think intercontinental ballistic missiles are all about? And the likelihood of an unimaginable nuclear event with these dictators, these terrorists, these inbred monarchists and so forth goes sky high. Everything is at stake. Everything. We're talking about an Islamist terrorist state, Iran, that preaches death to America. I want to be very clear. I trust President Trump. I support President Trump. He loves our country. He wants what's best for our country. He wants our people to be safe and secure. He's not the problem. I do not trust the Islamist terrorists who run Iran. I don't trust them at all. What they have done to our country, what they've done throughout the Middle East, they do not think like us. They do not love life like us. They do not believe in coexistence. They hate the West. They hate Israel, but most of all, they hate the United States of America. It's that simple. Yes, it's that simple.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.